Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. All right, we have some very heavy duty stuff to do today. So let's get to it. Right. Now, I think I've shown all of you this chart, haven't I? So
No, Bhante, we are seeing it for the first time, that chart.
Absolutely impossible. I have definitely shown you this.
No, you did not. Ask the others. Maybe I wasn't there. I don't know.
I'm seeing it for the first time, Bhante.
It looks
I
very
told you. I told you.
But essentially, this is what we are going to be doing. And part of it we covered, the basics of it we covered last week. And today we are going to be covering the other sectors of it. So this is, of course, Venerable Mogok Sayadaw's technique, which employs the Paticcasamuppada, right? And essentially the portions that we are going to be covering today are going to be talking about these connections that are present, which has been devised into a chart by Venerable Mogok Sayadaw, are the connections that we are going to be talking about today. But I'm just showing it to you so that in your time, when you're reading through the book, you could also have the chart up on your screen and you could sort of compare. Also, the chart encompasses a lot of detail, and it is really the whole of Paticcasamuppada Vipassana in one chart, right? Which we are covering through pages and pages. It is encompassed in the whole chart there, all right? But this is not what we are going to be doing today. What we are going into is the book, all right? So we finished last time with the ending of the 3 periods. All right.
The 4 groups today.
The four groups, right? So now the 4 groups. Here, the 4 groups. So page 300 after the Pali. Here, so we are going to be going very slow. Here, by taking ignorance and karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence are also taken, right? Likewise, by taking craving, clinging, and existence, ignorance and karmic formations are also taken. Again, by taking ignorance and karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence are also taken. Likewise, by taking craving, clinging, and existence, ignorance and karmic formations are also taken, right? By taking birth and decay and death, the 5 effects, consciousness, and so on are also taken. Essentially, by this sort of also taken word, what they are showing is they're showing parallels which are drawn. If this sector is referred, when that sector is referred, that sector is also taken. You get it? when that sector is referred to, that initial sector is taken as well, right? It'll make sense in a bit, right? Thus, there are 5 causes pertaining to the past, 2 and 5 effects to the present, 3, 5 causes pertaining to the present, 4, and 5 effects to the future. 5 effects to the future. Just to put that all into what that essentially is talking about, it is talking about, you see this red section here, the second circle, kind of this section. It's referring to that area, right? So when we are talking about, so essentially what we would be today talking about are these sort of specific parts, specifically certain areas within this, right? Not all of them. But when we have a clear understanding of the Paticcasamuppada, they are essentially, or they can essentially be broken down into these 4 different parts, right? Regarding cause and effect of the past, present, and future, right? Going back. There are 20 modes, 3 connections, and 4 groups. 20 modes, 3 connections, and 4 groups. Guide to verse 7. When ignorance remains unabandoned in mind, then craving and clinging are bound to arise. Then craving and clinging are bound to arise. And whenever craving and clinging occur, they are rooted in and accompanied by ignorance. That is why it sort of drew parallels earlier, right? Further, in terms, karmic formations and existence both refer to the same reality. Karmic formations and existence both refer to the same reality, karmically active reality, which is both refer to the same reality, which is karmically active volition. Karmically active volition. Let's read that again. When ignorance remains unabandoned in mind, then craving and clinging are bound to arise. And whenever craving and clinging occur, they are rooted in and accompanied by ignorance. Whenever craving and clinging occur, they are rooted in and accompanied by ignorance, moha. Or rather, here the right word is avidya. Further, the terms karmic formations and existence both refer to the same reality. Karmically active volition. Karmically active volition. Therefore, is that clear, everyone? Right? Therefore, when one set of terms is mentioned, the other is implied. When one set is mentioned, the other is implied. Birth and decay and death are not enumerated separately among the 20 modes because they are characteristics of mind and matter, not ultimate realities. They are characteristics of mind and matter and not ultimate realities. So when we move on, and in the different classifications, you will not see jati, jara, marana, soka, parideva, dukkha, domana, supayasa. Right? Why? Because they are characteristics of nama and rupa, not ultimate realities. Is that understood? Right? So in the charts ahead, in the sectors ahead, you will see that. You will not see jati, jara. Okay. The ultimates which they qualify are the 5 factors from consciousness through feeling. The ultimates which they qualify are the 5 factors from consciousness through to feeling. Right? Consciousness through to feeling. 3 to 7. Consciousness, mind and matter, salayatana, 6 sense bases, phassa, contact, and feeling, vedana. Right? Those 5 there. The ultimates which they qualify are the 5 factors from consciousness through feeling. The 3 connections obtained between past causes and present results, 2 and 3. What is 2 and 3? Karmic formations and consciousness, which is past cause. The 3 connections obtained between past causes and present results. Past causes and present results, 2 and 3. Between present results and present causes, 7 to 8. 7 to 8. Here, it'll make sense, huh? Don't you worry. It'll make sense. Right? 7 to 8. That is feeling and craving. Feeling and craving. Vedana and tanha. Now, and between present causes and future results, 10 and 11. Present causes and future results, 10 and 11, which is existence and birth. Right? Existence and birth forms a connection between those specific groups. Right? Now, what are they? Just to give you an idea, if you just zoom in to the screen, right? Here, this is group 1. You see group 1 here, right? How does it link to group 2? That is what we are talking about here. Do you understand? 2 and 3. This is the second, the sensations and tanha. The linking between group 2 and 3. Right? And then the last, existence, bhava, and birth. The connection. Is that clear? Right? Yeah. Now, the classifications proposed in this passage are shown schematically in table 8.1. Right, we'll come to table 8.1 in a bit. The 3 rounds. The 3 rounds. The 3 rounds are: 1, ignorance, craving, and clinging belong to the round of defilements. Belong to the round of defilements. 2, one part of existence known as karmic existence and karmic formation belong to the round of karma. Belongs to the round of karma. Karmic existence and karmic formation belongs to the round of karma. 3, one part of existence known as rebirth existence and the rest belongs to the round of results. Belongs to the round of results. Now, Guide 2, verse 8. The 3 rounds exhibit a cyclic pattern of existence in samsara. What makes this go around, essentially? What makes the Paticcasamuppada system or that cycle turn, right? That is what essentially the rounds talk about. The most fundamental round is the round of defilements. Blinded by ignorance and driven by craving, a person engages in various unwholesome and mundane wholesome activities, Thus, the round of defilements, right? It's interesting how in this they put the mundane, unwholesome activities also into the round of defilements, isn't it? But we already know why. Don't we know why? Because of sankhara, the nature of sankhara. Remember the 3 types of sankhara? Does anyone remember the Pali? Yes, Mala.
Punyabhisankara, apunyabhisankara, anandibhisankara.
Anandabhi sankhara. And if you know anything about sankhara, is that these sankharas is karmically active, and it is through these sankharas that rebirth is, or the foundation for rebirth is built, right? Sankhara. Now, thus is the round of defilements. Thus is the round of defilements. Here. Gives rise to the round of karma. Thus, the round of defilements gives rise to the round of karma. When this karma matures, it ripens in the resultants. And thus, the round of karma gives rise to the round of resultants. We also know why this is. Because when a karma is generated, that karma must give result. It gives result in accordance to 4 time frames. Do we remember that? How karma gives result? Yes, Mala?
You mean the timing, that Ditta Dhamma Veradini, Aparapariya, and Anantarya.
And
Achilya.
Achilya, right? And achinna.
Achinna, Bhante.
Achinna. Now, karma gives rise in those manners, right? Or in the case of achinna, karma does not find a ground to arise, so it just goes into, or sort of not cancels itself out, but rather it doesn't arise, right? It becomes ahosi karma or achinna karma, we call it. And thus the round of karma gives round to the round of resultants. In response to these resultants, the pleasant and painful fruits of his own actions, the feeling or the experiencing the living out of one's own actions, pleasure, pain, whatever, right? The person still immersed in ignorance is overcome by craving to enjoy more pleasant experiences. We go through the pains and the pleasures, pains and the pleasures, pains and the pleasures, and the pleasures tempt us to go through more, or to even go through pain to still experience those pleasures. Hence, we call that person a person immersed in ignorance, right? He's overcome by craving to enjoy more pleasant experiences, clings to those he already has, and tries to avoid the painful ones. That is the whole cycle, really. The cycle would essentially, those Vedanas and those cravings are all taking a certain object fueled by avidya and tanha. It is the cycle itself is sort of pronounced by the defilements going into karma and then resultants. That essential need itself is what drives those rounds, makes the paticca cycle go rounds, right, from one state to another. Thus, the round of resultants generates another round of defilements. The round of resultants generates another round of defilements. In this way, the threefold round turns incessantly until the ignorance at its base is removed by wisdom, by the wisdom of insight and the supramundane paths. By the supramundane paths. Does that make sense? Any questions? Yes, Dil?
Bhante, this is the not that paragraph that I understand. Bhante, we were looking at timing of karma. So we know, we said it was Ditta Dhamma, which is those Garukas, but then we said it's Achinna and Asanna and Kataka. So now Asanna, you said was Ahosi. That's what I, because Achinna is one that you do, you practice for most of the time, and Asanna is the just before. And then Kataka is something flashes from anywhere. I don't know whether I'm telling it rightly. That's the way I understand. So why is that Asana can become suddenly Ahosi? Because Asana is, those are the things that happened just before, like what happened to King. Yeah.
Ahosi karma is not in the main four.
Yes.
Right?
That's right. Okay, so it's not equivalent to Asana. Thank you, Bhante. That's what I couldn't understand. So the main form is Ditta Dhamma, Achinna, Asana, and Kataka. But Ahosi is that any one of these other than the Garuka can get cancer. Thank you, Bhante.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Those that do not fulfill or does not rise to the four becomes Ahosi.
Thank you, Bhante.
Now, coming into table 1.8.
Bhante, that Asana and Achinna karma, they come at the time of death, isn't it? With the karma nimittas. But according to the timing, the four are Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya, which is this birth, Upapajja Vedaniya is the second birth, and Aparapariya is whenever. කවදා හෝ පළ දෙන. Then ahose is never.
Never.
Time wise.
According to the time, that's a classification.
According to time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But asanna nachinna katatta, those are at the time of death.
At the time of death.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, there are two different classifications.
That's
One
right.
is any time and the other one is what is the next thought and where you go. Yes, Bhante.
4 different classifications, isn't it?
Yeah, there are two different classifications. You can't equate the ahosi with the asanna because they come in two different ones. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Mala.
Right. Table 8.1. Table 8.1. Now, dependent arising. Past. Out of the 12 factors, ignorance and formations. Ignorance, avidya, and formations, sankhara. Right? In the 12 modes and 4 groups, the 20 modes, I'm sorry, in the 20 modes and the 4 groups, in the 20 modes, we have it as in the 20 modes and the 4 groups, we have it under the past causes 5, where we have 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10. 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. Ignorance, karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence. All of that which comes into the past group. All of which come into the past group. Ignorance, karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence. Baba. Right? We are speaking from the standpoint of now. We are speaking from the standpoint of now. When we refer to the past, how did I get here? Is that clear? How did I get here? Now would be the present, and the future is yet to come. Right? How did I get here? Ignorance, karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence. Ignorance we know even as an anusaya, ignorance, avidya anusaya, the ignorance factor is present. Because of that ignorance, as it was explained earlier in the paragraph, because of that existence, we cling and crave and do all of that which we do. And create the karmic formations. Right? Create the karmic formations. Through which also pronounces the existence. Ignorance, karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence. Past. All right. Now, the present. In the present, there are 2 groups. Present effect and present causes. Right? What aids, what do we, present effects are, what do we go through right now? Present causes are what caused the present. Right? Here, the present effects are 3 to 7. Right? Before that. Consciousness, mind and matter, nama rupa, salayatana, passa, Vedana, which goes into or becomes the present effects 3 to 7. This is 3 to 7. Does that make sense? For the experience of the present, we need or we have consciousness, mind and matter, the 6 sense bases, which takes those objects which we cling to. The contact with those objects, with that data that we perceive, and then the feelings that we cultivate that are generated, associated with those objects coming in through the Salayatana, right? That builds the present experience. The present experience. Does that make sense, everyone? Any questions? Is everyone okay? Would you like me to explain again or in a different way? Anyone? No? Okay.
Bhante,
Summary.
so where it says present effects in the last column of 20 modes and 4 groups, it's saying the present effects of the past causes. So you're looking at the past, row of past, it's got 5 causes.
Okay.
That gives rise to the present effects. And then you have present causes that will give effect in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Present causes which will give effect in the future. Yes. Sorry. Yes. That's the way, Chamari.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So not what caused the present, but the present causes which becomes or lays way to the effects of the future, or the present causes for the future, right? Now, the present causes, so this is done, right? The present causes, present causes, craving, clinging, and existence. Now, when we say existence, our minds should be going into that definition of existence, which was explained with the Paticcasamuppada, the need to be, the bhava tanha, right, associated with that bhava, right? That is where that existence is, right? So craving, clinging, and existence forms the present causes 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Craving, it causes become craving, clinging, existence, ignorance, and formations.
Bhante, can I ask you something, please?
Yes.
See what Chamari was explaining in this book, but I can understand what she's saying, but the book tells it differently, and I don't know. If you look now, the first lot, the past causes, right? Ignorance, and they said there are 5 of them, and they give them 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. But in that last column, they say past causes, there are 5. Correct, 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. Now they give rise to present effects, but they haven't mentioned that. But you mentioned it's present effects. Then Chamari mentioned that the present causes, which is there are 5 of them, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right now they causes future effects, but the book says present effects 5. But actually, what they're saying is that the present causes of those 5, 3 to 7, and as Chamari mentions, causes future effects. So why does that column say present effects in the book? In the first column, in that 20 modes and 4 groups, they said past causes 5. So that's right. There are 5 causes. They have missed saying causes, present, effects, which Bhante you included. But we can understand past causes gives present. They haven't mentioned. But in that second whole lot of present causes, right, we know there are these 5 present causes, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, but the book says there are present effects 5. But as Chamari showed, if it is present causes, it causes should be giving future effects. Book says present effects 5. I couldn't quite understand that one.
Okay. Are you looking at table 8.1, Bill?
I'm looking at 8.1, right? And exactly. So let's go. I'm looking at 8.1 and I'm looking at the first horizontal line, which says, if you look at vertically, the first one is quite clear. The three periods are past, present, future. So nobody has any question about that. Now we are looking at the second lot of vertical, the 12 factors, and we are looking at the 20 modes and the 4 groups. So if you look at the horizontal, first line, there are 3 horizontal, we look at the past. So it says past, and the next one says, yes, there is 1 and 2, which is ignorance and formation. And it says past causes, there are 5, and they give them 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10. So there are 5 past causes. And Bhante, you mentioned they will give rise to present effects. Past causes 1, 2, 8, 9, 5. The book has printed past causes 5. They will give rise to present effects. So past gives rise to present. So that is okay. The book doesn't say present effects, but for whatever reason, but Bhante, you explain, and that seems quite okay. I'm now going to the second lot, the second big lot of present causes. Now there, it says present causes, and then there's the second column, vertical, and the third column, it says present effects, and you mentioned present effects. And somebody then pointed out and said, the present causes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 5 of them, will give rise to effects in the future. And you said, yeah, it's a present causes, but somebody said it gives rise to effects in the future. Present gives rise to effect. But the book says present effects 5. But actually that's present causes, there are 5. So I couldn't understand that. I don't know whether Chamari can explain more, because when you read it out and said present effects 5, Chamari, I think if I got it right, showed that Bhante, if there are 5 causes in the present, should it not be the effects? 5 are the effects, and that's perfectly rational. The present has the effect. The present should have the effect in the future, but the book gives that as present effect 5. So I couldn't quite understand, and Chamari, or you can explain, Bhante, why the book says present effect 5, because we know the 5 there are the present causes there. But we know that the effects in the, why is the book saying present effects there?
Yeah.
But the first column there says quite right. Past causes 5. And Bhante, you said it gives rise to 5 present effects. So that's very sensible.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Now here, when we take the present, the present has the ability of experiencing results as well as giving rise to results in the future, because it's karmically active.
Right.
Hence, in the past, we only find past causes.
Yeah.
In the future, we find future effects. But in the present, because of the ability to experience karmic formations and create new karmic formations, due to that reason, we have present effects and present causes.
Okay. All right. So it's explaining differently. Okay. So in the present, you have these 5 things, and they are saying it can cause effects in the present as well. Okay.
Because as we know, for example, the ability to see, hear, smell, taste, and feel are karmic resultants.
Yes.
Right? Are karmic resultants. Mind and matter, if we just take mind and matter, or even the salayatana, sense spaces, we know that these are karmic resultants. Hence, we are experiencing the results of karmic formations and karmically active volitions right now.
Okay.
However, whilst we are experiencing the results of those karmic activities of the past, we are also able to create more karmic energies within the present. Hence, present causes. We experience, we go through karmas as well as create karmas.
Okay, Bhante.
Right? Because of that ability, and we are only able to do that in the present.
Okay, Bhante.
We can't alter past karma, nor can we alter future karma.
Yes.
Right? In the future, because we don't live in those two positions.
Yes.
We only live in the present, and because we do live in the present, we can experience
That's present.
as create.
So therefore, because you can't create anything in the past or in the future, but you can create things in the present. So that is why in the first one, you don't create anything in the present. So we shouldn't put create in there. So the first one, in the past, if you have something, those are only the past 5 causes. You don't actually create anything in the present, right? Right, there's only effects, correct. So in the second one, that in the present, you get those 5 things. And because it's the present and you can create in the present, therefore, those same 5 are present effects. So they haven't mentioned anything about the future. Thank you, Bhante. It's now very clear.
Yeah, same 5 are the present effects. What 5 are you referring to by the same 5?
Now, that second whole lot of the middle lot, it says present, and then they give 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And
Okay.
then in the third column, they say present effects 5.
Yeah.
So in the present, you get there are 5, and that's a third to the 7th. The present effects 5 are those things that is in the middle one, which is consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense bases, contact and feeling. Because the present effects, the 5 are 3 to 7.
Yeah. Now, although the 12 factors and the 20 modes and 4 groups are found on the chart next to each other, do not assume that they are talking in correspondence, right? The 12 factors simply refer to the 12 factors of the dependent arising divided upon to past, present, and future. The 20 modes are different.
Right.
Right? The 20 modes in operation are different from the first column, which is the 12 factors column.
Yes.
So we should not assume that the 12 factors or the 12 factors and the 20 modes and 4 group is sort of, going hand in hand in a way, right? The function of those 20 groups is different from that 12 factor group.
Yes, Bhante. So the 12 factors are each of those factors in the Patricam are each given one note. So they are first one, second one. That's quite simple. That's how we have always learned. 1, 2, 3, 4, it goes. But these other ones, why there is 20, some of them are repeated in some. That's why those 12. So there are much more factors here because something, for example, ignorance comes in more than one. It comes in that the past, but ignorance also comes in the present. So that's why you are getting 20 now as opposed to 12, but because each one is given only 1. So that I understand that they're different. But what I'm saying is in that the column, when you say past causes 5 and you give 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10, so that's the that 1 and 2 from there, and the 8, 9, and 10, which is coming from 2 in the present and the 10. So because after all, if you look at the other 8, 9, and 10, 8, 9, and 10 is from the present lot, but the past 5 causes. And so is that last column effects or causes, or what is it? So they say past causes 5, right? And then it gets 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. So the past, the 12 factors are different. And then this they say is past causes. So it's not these 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. Is that present effects, Bhante? Or is it past causes? That's what I want to know. And in the same thing for the second one also. So these 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are among the 12 factors. Third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth, and seventh are all in that column. And 8, and 9, and 10, they're all in the present. But when you look at the present effects, because in the present moment you can create. So there is an effect also. So those present effects, there are 5 of them, and they are 3 and 7. So 3 and 7 are that middle group there: consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense, contact and feeling. So those are present effects. In the column before, those are 5 past causes.
What is the question? I don't understand the question.
Now, because Bhante, we were mixing up causes. On that second lot, we were telling 5 present effects, you said, and then somebody said,
Bhante, may I try and say that again?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dill is possibly getting confused with when it says past, ignorance formations, by saying ignorance and karmic formations, we are also taking craving, clinging, and existence.
Yes.
That's why it's got the past causes 5.
Yes.
And so those 5 past causes will give effects in the present.
Yes.
They are the vipaka of those sankharas from the past.
Yes.
Yeah. So the 5 past causes will give effects, vipaka, in the present.
Yes.
Alongside that, we will create new karmas using craving, clinging, and existence. Therefore, we are, apart from actually experiencing the vipaka from the past causes, we are also creating new karmas, and therefore they become the causes for the future effects.
Yes.
I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So therefore, you don't just say that first group, that makes sense, because that perfect sense, because that makes that the past causes 5, this 1, 2, 8, 9, 10 are not past causes 5. This past causes, there are 5 of them. So you're saying that is 1 and 2 are the past causes, right? And 8, 9, 10, right, are the present effects. That's what you just explained.
No deal.
Right.
Past causes are all 5, although it is mentioning 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We read in page 300 here, by taking ignorance and karmic formations, craving, clinging, and existence are also taken.
So there are 5 past causes, which is 1 and 2, right? Okay, I followed that. 8, 9, and 10.
That gives rise to,
right? That gives then
rise to 5 vipakas,
right,
3 to 7.
Yeah. So are those 5? No, they're not mentioned. So these are the 5 causes. The 5 are 1, 8, 9, and 10. So it gives rise to, though it's not mentioned there, it gives rise to 5 effects as well. And are those 5 effects also 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10?
No, what 5 effects are consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense bases, contact, and feeling.
So the effects are only 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, effects are the vipakas, right?
Yeah, that's right. But in the book, they haven't mentioned that, right? What is of the past, they haven't put effects there. They have only told that in the past, they haven't used the word in that column about effects. That's what I couldn't understand.
But the effects are not in the past. Whatever the karmas you create,
right,
the effects are going to be in the future. So whatever you do now,
right. Okay. Right. Yeah. So okay, now I follow. So those past 5 causes, 1, 2, 8, 9, 10, will give rise to present effects, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Correct?
Yeah. Past causes 1, 2, 8, 9, 10
will give rise
resultants.
Will give rise to present effects 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Correct. Then if you take the middle column, then it says the present effects, right? There are 5 of them, which is again 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Correct? Are the present 5? What are the present effects? They say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They mention present effects is 5, or is it?
All right. Let me explain this.
Yes. Sorry, Bhante.
Comes to karma. When it think of it in this way, forget this lesson.
Right.
Back to chittas and karma.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yes, and not what was it?
I'm sorry, I'm such a dumbo, but I thought I read.
Let's go to chitta, right? We enact unwholesome karma,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Through one of the first 8 akusala chittas.
Yes. Yes.
When we enact a karma from the first one of those akusalas, that akusala gives rise to a resultant. That akusala energy gives rise to a resultant which will arise in the future. But do we talk about the resultant in the kammic chitta? No. Present kammic chitta, the present kammic chitta is one of the 8, let's say the first akusala chitta, somanasagata, right?
Yeah.
So within the first akusala chitta, we do not talk about the kammic resultant, because that chitta is only to do with that kammic rollout, the kammic action or the kammic verbal.
Okay.
Right? We do not talk about the resultant.
Okay.
In the same way,
Right.
within this chart, right? Within this chart, the 5 causes 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. What are they?
Ignorance, formation, craving, clinging, and existence.
Right.
Right.
Those essences, those factors are present as past causes built in the past.
Yes.
Owing to that energy, owing to that karmic formation, karmic energy, the present exists. There is no need to bring past into the present. The present arises when those conditions of the past have been built. So owing to that past, we have the present. The present has 2 possibilities.
Okay.
One is present effect and present causes. Present effects for the experiencing of life, experiencing of karmic volitions of the past, right? All of that. To experience life.
Right.
The conscious mind and matter, salayatana, passa and vedana. Right.
Yeah.
So that is one. That is present effects, or that falls under that present effect category.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
present effect,
Yeah.
we experience the present effect through consciousness, through mind and matter, through the salayatanas, through passa and through vedana.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Whilst, well, when we are going through that, I am eating an ice cream. Whilst I'm eating an ice cream, because of my tanha, I am generating new karmas. That is, or that goes under present causes.
Right. So that present cause is the new karma you are generating. And that is the 8, 9, 10, 1 and 2, which is craving, clinging, existence, ignorance and formations.
Yes.
Now I follow.
Now,
Right.
here now the word must change. Not creating.
Right.
Not creating. Creating is the wrong word to use.
Right.
By the support of craving, clinging,
Yes.
existence,
Yes.
ignorance and formations,
Right.
those factors out of the 12 factors forms the present causes which would give rise in the future.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes. Yes, Bhante.
Here now.
Yeah. Now it's very clear. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for your time. And sorry to the rest of the class, but now I follow perfectly. Thank you, Bhante.
Dil. Thank you, Dil, for raising the thing, because now I understand very clearly.
Oh, great. I thought I was just feeling so bad, but I thought no point in going on without understanding the wording. But now we understand. Thank you, Bhante. And thank you, the whole class. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Right. Okay, Bhante.
All right. Damsari, do you want to say something? You're muted.
Mm.
You're muted, Damsari.
I have got a strong feeling that there's a printing mistake in Dill's book. The 20 modes, 1 to 3rd column, it says present causes. Dill, it says present causes.
Dil, you're also muted.
Damsari, thank you. Okay. So in that 3rd vertical column, the topmost horizontal box is 20 modes and 4 groups. Is that correct in your book?
Yeah,
So,
that's right. Yeah.
Right. Then the next box is, I have got past causes 5. That's what
that's
Bhante
correct.
read. That's
correct.
1, 2, 8, 9, and 10. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
the next vertical box underneath that
Yeah.
is present effects 5. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Right. That's 3 to 7, meaning
Yeah.
consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense motor, contact and feeling. Now
Yeah.
the next box underneath that, it's present causes 5. Is that wrong in my book?
It's correct. Correct.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
so
it
that's
was
right.
a printed
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah.
No. So that is 8, 9, 10, 1 and 2. So
Yeah.
which is craving, cleaning, existence, ignorance, and formation. But now Bhante very clearly he said, by the support of, right? Which is support of the. So now you can, and then the last one is future effects 5, which is 3 to 7.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So Bhante explained it exactly like this now. So using those, so now it's very clear, and I'm glad that Mala also benefited. Thank you, Bhante.
So now then we have the future. In the future arises, or within the 12 factors, the future becomes birth and decay and death. Right? Decay and death. Mind you that nowhere did you find decay and death quoted, and that is for the reason that we mentioned earlier, right? The future effects come to rise supported by consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense bases, contact and feelings. Does that make sense? Because everything that we accumulate for the future, we do it through consciousness, mind and matter, 6 sense bases, contact and feeling. Right? Contact and feeling. Does it make sense, everyone? Yeah? I hope the ones without the cameras on are also all right. Shriyani?
Thank you, Bhante. It's very clear now.
Okay. Lakshman?
Clear, Bhante.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, now let's just, for a moment, let's just go back to that complicated looking chart, the graph, the scary one. Now, let's just take a look at this first one, right? The past causal factors: ignorance, sankhara, tanha, upadana, and karma existence, karma bhava, right? We've gone over these connections that happen, right? Exiting from this cycle leads to the nibbana, the cravingless, right? And then moving from one part, right? Now this is the kilesa vata here, kamma vata, which is rounds, by the way, right? Rounds, which makes a cycle go around. We have kilesa vata, kamma vata, right? And here vipaka vata, right? The past causal factors here, let me just, the past causal factors here, and then the present resultant factors, meaning right now, what are we going through right now? And then present causal factors here, and then the future resultant here. And then we also find, according to the Four Noble Truths, which part fits where? Dukkha Satcha, the right now, meaning the present resultant, and the future resultant all fall into Dukkha Satcha. The present causal factors here, this group, and the past causal falls into Samudaya, right? Which we will come into, right? Just to give you an idea. Oops, sorry if you're feeling dizzy. Okay, right. So just to give you an idea of where we are. Give you an idea of where we are, right? Now let's move on. That chart is a bit hypnotizing. Okay. Now,
Bhante,
yes.
excuse me, Bhante. If you forward the chart to us, we can print it and keep.
Yes, I can. Yes.
And it's easy. Then you're circling and we are going round and round and getting dizzy.
Well, that chart is definitely not easy. But
Yeah.
I will.
But I like to study it if you send it to us.
Bhante, can you put it into the chat, because then I can easily print it without putting into, if you can put this chart into our Dhamma chat group, then we can just print it out.
Simply, you can just, I'll put what you, Mogok.
Just put it into a Dhamma chat, because then we can all from
Just
the chat.
Mogok Patijasampada, and under images you will find that. Right, I'll put it on the chat.
Yes, thank you, Bhante.
Let's move on. Right now, the three connections which we have gone over: past causes with present effect, past with present, past with present, 2 and 3, 7 and 8 with present effects connecting to present causes is 7 and 8. Present causes to future effects is existence and then birth, right? Actually, this chart might be a little bit more easier, not little, but far more easier than that other one, right? But here, formations and consciousness, feeling and craving, existence and birth. These are the three connections listed here. Does that make sense? Right? The three rounds. The rounds of defilements are 1, 8, and 9. 1, 8, 9 form the Kilesa Vata. Kilesa Vata is 1, 8, 9. Round of Kamma, 2 and 10. Round of Kamma, 2 and 10. We'll discuss this, right? Round.
Sorry, Bhante, why do they say 2, 10 and part? What is that part there?
Yeah, will come, right? Here, the round of results, this is why it said part here, Dale.
Right.
The round of results, Vipaka Vata, is 3 to 7, 3 to 7, and 10. The 10 in Vata is able to perform both functions of being or supporting the Vata of Kamma and the Vata of resultants. Then as resultants, we have 11 and 12 as resultants. The Vata of Kamma and the Vata of resultants, or round of Kamma and round of resultants, both share the 10. Or the 10 can support both those rounds. Why? Because of the inherent need to be within the part of Kamma, also that attraction, the bhava aspect is present. In the vipaka, whilst we are experiencing the vipakas, also the bhava is present. Hence, the bhava is able to support both rounds of Kamma and resultants. Right? The round of resultants, 3 to 7, 10, and 11 and 12. 11 and 12. Right? The rounds, just as we saw on that chart with the arrows, the rounds are essentially what makes it flow. Right? Those energies in its collective, the collective energy, by collective energy, I mean when we say defilements 1, 8, and 9, ignorance, craving, and clinging makes us perform actions, verbal and physical, that would then lead to Kamma. The Kamma would then lead to the resultants, both powering on, supporting in their own way, supporting the cycle to keep the cycle rotating and rotating and rotating. Right? That is why it is a round. Two roots, ignorance, from past to present, craving from present to future. Ignorance from past to present. We can't have ignorance in the future. Right? When I say we can't have ignorance in the future, we have to always assume that we are talking from the moment of now. Right? The future has not arisen as yet.
Yeah.
Right? Craving can be there for the future. We can't crave for the past. Right? This present moment, we had that craving for the future. Right?
But why do you say we can't crave for the past? Say, I have gone on a lovely holiday and I want to do that holiday again. So I've gone to Sri Lanka. So we are craving for the past. No?
Future. You're craving for the future.
You're craving, not to, you're craving for that same experience to happen in the future. Okay. You're craving for a past experience to happen in the future. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Past is done for.
Yeah. The craving can't take past as the object.
Yes, right.
Because again, going back to our earlier chapters, craving, anything to do with tanha has to form. The past, we can't form anything in the past.
Right.
Right?
Yes. Thank you, Bhante.
Now, right. Any questions, anyone, before we move to reading the rest? I think the two roots have a, maybe we can read this and then the summary as well. Oh my gosh, Patana. Okay, let's read this. Watching that cut by Hitano. All right. The two roots. Ignorance and craving should be understood as the two roots. Guide to verse 9. Ignorance is so called. Ignorance is called the root from the past extending into the present, which reaches its culmination in feeling. Which reaches its culmination in feeling. Craving is called the root from the present extending into the future, which reaches its culmination in death and decay. Which reaches its culmination in death and decay. Right? Summary. By the destruction of these roots, the round ceases. By the destruction of these roots, the round ceases. With the arising of the taints, in those who are constantly oppressed by infatuation with death and decay, ignorance occurs again. Again. With the arising of the taints in those who are constantly oppressed by the infatuation with death and decay, ignorance occurs again. It is speaking of, if we are to take a pathway, it is talking about the path in an objectified manner. One who wants to go through this will come to that end. Knowing that end, we still go through it. Fueled by the rounds. Fueled by those rounds. Being in this path, we go towards that end. That end here in this life is death and decay. That we go through. And we do all the things that we do. The great sage has thus expounded this entangled, beginningless round of becoming with its three planes as dependent arising. With its three planes as dependent arising. Guide to verse 10. In the Samma Ditti Sutta, the Venerable Sariputta is asked to explain the cause of ignorance, and he replies that ignorance arises from the taints. Avijja samudaya, asava samudaya, avijja samudayo. When asava are the taints, by the way, right? Asava samudaya, that means the ceasing of the asavas leads to avijja samudaya, the ceasing of ignorance. When he is asked to state the cause of the taints, he replies that the taints arise from ignorance. Avijja samudaya, asava samudayo. So, twisting the words, asava samudaya, asava avijja, avijja asava. Right? Here, asava avijja, avijja asava. So meaning counterdependence. Since the most fundamental of the taints is the taint of ignorance, avijja asava. The Venerable Sariputta's statement implies that the ignorance in any given existence arises from the ignorance in its preceding existence. This, in effect, establishes the round of becoming as beginningless, anadikam. Since any instance of ignorance always depends on the preceding life, in which ignorance was present, entailing an infinite regression on the taints. Yeah. All right. We are going to stop there for today. So,
Just one quick question before we start. Now the taints are asavas. So those are kamasava and bhavasava and ditthasava and avidjasava. Is that right?
yeah.
Yeah. The second question I have is when they say now we are doing like the patana. Now we learned because earlier we had done dependent origination, and then the other one is conditionality, right? Whatever patana. So here when they say asava samudaya and avidya samudayo, and then avidya samudaya to asava samudayo, is this conditionality what they're talking about? Or is it dependent?
They are so this is the thing. This is what they are referring to is essentially that it supports one another, mutual conditioning.
That's right. It's conditioning. So it's not the dependent origin on this guy. It's the I don't know, the ascending and the descending or what anuloma and pratiloma, but this is conditionality. This is referring to condition. At the very beginning, we said there were two things. Earlier, we were doing all about the dependent origination with the anuloma and the pratiloma. And the second thing we did was conditionality, right? So this is referring to conditionality.
Well, not really. Not really. It is just a sutra statement. It's not talking about conditionality. Of course, we can bring in conditionality to explain it. However, what it is saying is essentially it's supporting, it's talking about anyamanna pacha, where in all instances it supports one another's existence, right?
Okay, so is that like how we do dependent origination? You avidya patya sankara and sankara the other way down anuloma and pratiloma. Is that like that?
Not really, no, because in the 12 dependent origination, we are talking about a cycle, isn't it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, the asava and the avidya, yes, they support one another, and because of one another, they exist. Just as, for example, sanya, vedana, are counterparts of consciousness, and without sanya and vedana, consciousness will not arise. Without consciousness, sanya and vedana will not arise. So, which is more important? We can't say that any is more important.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not like dependent on it's these things that we thought one, the other doesn't take it. Okay, Bhante. So this is something quite different to that. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for that.
Yeah. All right. So any questions that anyone would have with regards to
Bhante, a quick question. I think some might say I'm trying. In order to break, okay, I can trace the location. In order to break this cycle, in one place it says that avidya and tanha, but tanha alone cannot be used to break the cycle. Avidya, which is very important, that you have to break the cycle using getting rid of avidya. Oh, right?
yeah.
But tanha, by getting rid of tanha only, you cannot break the cycle.
Okay. Okay.
So you have to actually you have to get rid of avidya, and that's the breaking point cycle of rebirth.
Yes, and I think, and when we look at true, absolutely, we can't isolate any part of avidya and tanha. It will always work together as long as, for example, asava and avidya, avidya and tanha will always arise together, right? Although we have two very different separate identities, they rise supported by one another again, right? It is a part of this existence. When we talk about, or when we sort of apply that same into the attainments, we find our position sort of in the journey of getting rid of avidya. and ignorance, both, of course, sort of firmly established to a certain extent with the stream winning position, where Sakkaya Ditthi is removed in the first sort of position, and Silabbata Paramasa, right? So Silabbata Paramasa and Sakkaya Ditthi are linked by Ditthi, right? They are linked by Ditthi. In getting rid of those very weighty ditthis, you know, I mean, our cultures, our traditions, our values, you know, all of these things that we believe, maybe even sometimes the things that we consider values are not really values at the end, you know, they are most definitely, most often just simply culture. To let go of that aspect of a person's life is a huge thing. Right, is a huge thing. It is almost as if, let us say, you know, on New Year's, whether it be the 1st of January or Singhala Urudu, if we do not make Kiribat, right, it is almost as if we've failed our families, isn't it? You know, it is so ingrained to us, ingrained within us, that we must make Kiribat. But for us to then sort of let go of that, to let go of that and understand that that is just simply letting go of that doesn't essentially mean letting go of making Kiribat, but letting go of the attachment, the ignorance connected to that performance of ritual, right? That letting go is actually letting go of a big part of us, a big part of self. So that is connected. Silabbata Paramasa and Sakkaya Ditthi are connected to one another through Ditthi, or the similarity is Ditthi. And in letting go, or us being free of those two kilesas, or rather impediments to our journey, is essentially the weakening of Avidya and Tanha both. Because the Tanhaving Tamai, like for example, Ditthi Asava, right? It is the attachment towards that specific ditthi, which again then forms that tanha, right? So we find ourselves in a position where we then sort of weaken that further, which will then get us on the route to now slowly weaken the rest to a level where we attain enlightenment. So yes, Damsiri, Avidya and Tanha, they never can be treated as isolated phenomena. They will always arise together. Trying to isolate Tanha from Avidya is like trying to isolate perception from consciousness. It will never happen. It will never happen. Yeah. At one point, you know, even if we think, for example, if we try to apply Anusaya, right? Now, Anusaya, certain Anusayas at that given time, or certain kilesas at that given time, just like, for example, when we will be speaking about Adipati Dhammas, right? A certain factor can become Adipati. But when we sort of speak about Adipati, all of those factors and Dhammas that come up in Adipati, right? Chanda Adipati, Virya Adipati, all of those things fall under the umbrella of Avidya and Tanha. Right? So this Avidya and Tanha that we are speaking of is essentially something like the root cause, like the Anusaya, like that governing umbrella that we are all under. It is not the same sort of craving that we are talking about in our day-to-day life, but rather that root which exists. That underlying tendency which is always present, like the smell of air almost, if there is even such a thing. Yeah, so it will always go hand in hand. We cannot isolate either one of them. Yeah, we'll be studying a bit more about it with Patana actually. Yeah, so all right, everyone. So good night. And that chart, you can just get it off of Google. Just Google Mogok, M-O-G-O-K, Patisampada, and it'll turn up in the images. And you know, it is a very nice sort of reference image to have with regards, because it encompasses everything that we have done within the section. But again, for those of you, who are eager to probably practice it, don't. Meaning, don't try to do Paticcasamuppada Vipassana, right? Right. All right. So then, good night. Have a pleasant rest of the
Thank
night.
you, Bhante. Thank you.
Therwan saranai, Bhante.
Therwan saranai.
Thank you, Bhante. Therwan saranai.